Today, let's take a look at the wonderful world of pronouns as we look at reflexives and reflexive pronouns. So, reflexive pronouns are those pronouns that use the word self or selves. So, we break them down both in terms of singular and plural, as well as in first person, second person, and third person. So, we have myself, yourself, himself, herself, and itself. On the plural side, we have ourselves, yourselves, and themselves. So a reflexive pronoun basically reflects back to its antecedent in the sentence and agrees both in number and gender, which sounds a heck of a lot like what every pronoun kind of does. But reflexives is a little unique. It's typically sitting in a position where it is the object in the sentence and the subject is actually repeating itself as the object. It sounds confusing in my head, so let me see if I can show you what I mean. So if I said, Mr. Sterner bought him or himself a tube of moisturizing cream for his sensitive skin. Well, if I use the word himself, what's happened is the subject, Mr. Sterner, is also the direct object himself. So rarely does the direct object actually rename the subject unless it is a reflexive pronoun. So in a sense, it reflects back to Mr. Sterner. True, if I would have said the word him, that would also make it correct. It just means that Mr. Sterner's buying moisturizing cream for some random dude, and that's just weird. Next one, Mr. Spangler gave a sweet harmonica concert to all of his lucky students and me and myself. Well, I have to choose the word me. So one interesting fact about reflexives is you can only use the reflexive if it reflects back to the word it's actually in the sentence. And so myself is looking for the word I, and I am not in the sentence, and that's the reason why we choose the word me. All right, so think about how the word ourselves is reflecting back to the word we, or themselves is reflecting back to the word they. So think about what it's going to reflect back to, and if it's not there, you can't use the reflexives. So let's go through some example sentences. For her date with Colin, Leah made, a scrumptious dinner of beefaroni for him or himself. Well, we have to also remember that as much as we have a grammar brain, we also have a grammar gut, and we have to be able to listen and follow some things. And so even though our brain says, well, Colin is in the sentence, so can't I use the word himself? We still use the word him. Our grammar gut kicks in and says, well, he's not making it for himself. Leah's the one who's making it for him, even though Colin is technically in the sentence. So once again, kind of use your gut as you're using also your brain. After a long year of intense grading, Mr. Doherty and I pampered ourselves or themselves with a pedicure and an eyebrow waxing. Well, remember the word ourselves is reflecting back to the word we, and themselves is reflecting back to the word they. Technically, you don't have the word we or they literally in the sentence, but you do have we or they in the sentence in another form. When I say Mr. Doherty and I, it's like saying the word we. If it said Mr. Doherty and he, that would be like saying the word they. So that's why I get to use the word ourselves. Mr. Sterner shared his unhealthy vat of tapioca pudding with only us or with only ourselves. Well, I have to choose the word us this time because ourselves is looking for the word we, and it's not in the sentence. After the oil reached the correct temperature, Mr. Fisher fried and served up crispy wontons to the Mandarin Chinese students and him or himself while we watched risque Chinese game shows. Well, this time I'm going to use the word himself. I assume Mr. Fisher is frying and serving up these wontons to both the students and also to Mr. Fisher himself. But if we did choose the word him, it would be correct. It just sounds weird that we're giving it to Mandarin Chinese students and then some random other male. So there you go. Our class rewarded itself or ourselves for such high scores on the final exam with a taco party. Now, this was a tricky one, classic SAT question. Here's the word itself, which is looking for the word it, and here's ourselves looking for the word we. And even though you see that word our in front of that noun class, our class, and we think, was it our class, like saying the word we? A pronoun reflects back to a noun. And so when you see that word class, class is a singular item. I know it's our class. I know we're part of the class. We're thinking it's a we, but class is a singular item. And for that reason, I have to choose itself. That's a trap. Be careful of that. Mr. Heiser asked if he could have a bit of my Swanson Hungry Man frozen dinner, but I told him that I bought it for me or myself. Well, myself was looking for the word I. It's in there. It's actually the subject of that sentence, so I can say myself because I bought it for myself. Lastly, number 7, starting off an absolute phrase, 3 dozen donuts awaiting my first period on exam day. They were all gobbled up, leaving none for me or myself, even though donuts are my favorite. Well, I know there's a couple uses of the word my, but myself is literally looking for the word I. And if I don't have the word I can't use that word myself. So leaving none for me would be correct. All right, this has been another special grammar moment brought to you by Marshmallow Productions. This is the end. Enjoy.